when I was in high school in my senior year, I was going out on a career day, and they took us out to Lincoln Airport. And I was the only black that went out there. And when I was out there, the man who was talking to us about it, he saw me and he said, "I'll tell you, there's no place in aviation for Negroes, so you might as well forget about it." And so that was some kind of discouraging remark, but I didn't let it kill my desire. And eventually, there was a lot of pressure put on the government as the war started to loom, and they started a pilot training program. It was a civilian program run by the government to train pilots. In the event that we had a war, we would have some people who were partially trained and prepared to go into it. And they included that in several black colleges, and Tuskegee was one of the schools where that was included. And eventually a suit was brought against the government because they wouldn't let any blacks into the Air Corps, and a suit was brought against the government, and the government, in order to counter this suit, they said, well, what we'll do, we'll open a program to train blacks. So we know within ourselves, all the military said black people are not capable of flying airplanes, do not have the intelligence, the coordination, or anything that qualify them as a pilot. So we can start the program, and we can kill it real quick because we know they'll never qualify.
That's awful.
And so they opened up the program, and they let a limited number in, and they said they would only let a limited number graduate from each class. They would wash out all of them. They'd wash out everybody they could. And so they made it as tough as they could, and I'll tell you, it was not an easy program to go into. You had a whole lot of pressures on you from all angles. You had flight instructors who, some of them, we did have some nice flight instructors. I don't want to put everybody in that category because there were some nice ones, but there were a lot of them who were there with the objective of getting this program, killing this program. But we were a very bunch of determined young men who got into that program, and we would encourage each other at night. We would sit up all night sometimes, talk and encourage, come on, damn it, you can make it, man, come on, you can make it. And we would fight and say, we're going to get through this program. And I think that encouraged us, and so that went on, and we got through it. Eventually we had enough for a squadron of black pilots, and they formed the 99th Fighter Squadron. And of course, the Air Corps was completely and totally segregated. The whole military was. And so when they got them trained, they had this squadron, and they trained them for about a year. And they couldn't find any place to put them. No white groups would want them. The war was going on, but yet they didn't want. I think the war had started about that time, but they didn't want them over in Africa. They wanted to put them over. Said, well, we'll put them over there, going up down a coast patrol or something like that, but that eventually didn't work out. So there were eventually, I think Mrs. Roosevelt was instrumental after a lot of pressure was applied to her to getting them into combat in North Africa. And so the 99th, they tried to say they had a commanding officer who was determined to try to get rid of them, and he sent in a report to headquarters all the way up to Ike Eisenhower that said that none of the black pilots qualified and met the qualifications and standards of the white pilots in the organization, and they wanted to disband it. And it was about to be done, and I think it got to Eisenhower, and I think they say Eisenhower said, let me look at the records and see what the records look at. He said, well, these men did everything that they were asked to do, and without any qualms, there's no record, nothing wrong. It shows that they were unqualified. So instead of disbanding the organization, they said, we're going to expand it. Instead of having one squadron, we're going to have 3 more squadrons to it and add a fighter group. And so that is how the 332nd Fighter Group was formed. So we had the fighter group that was formed of the 100th, 99th Squadron. 99th was one squadron. They went into combat before any of the others. And then they had the 100th Squadron, the 301st, and the 302nd Squadron. So we had 4 squadrons, and that was the largest squadron in the Air Force because regular squadrons only had 3. Regular groups only had 3 squadrons, but we had 4 squadrons, so we had the largest squadron in the Air Force at that time. And so we went overseas. 99th distinguished themselves very much so at Anzio. The Battle of Anzio, the Americans were being pushed back into the sea. And during the Battle of Anzio, their 99th Flying P-40s which was a obsolete plane, nothing no match for the German planes. But in about a week's time, I think they shot down 19 German planes. The German planes were pushing the Americans. They were started a landing at Anzio, and they were pushing the Americans back into the sea. But due to the 99th, they came in, they strafed, dive bombed, and shot down, I think it was about 19 planes in about 10 or 12 days' time, and saved Anzio. And then as a result of that, Ike came all the way from England and congratulated and thanked them, and that gave a big boost to the black people as far as flying was concerned. They said, now we know that this myth that we've been believing is not true.